You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 411, The Magic Connection Method with Brandon Fong. If you're a small business owner who wants to learn effective business strategies, improve time management, and elevate productivity to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Today, I'm bringing back one of my favorite interviews because the message is as powerful now as when it first aired. If you have ever told yourself you don't have time for networking or building relationships, this episode might change your mind. Listen, so much is changing with technology and AI and all of the shiny objects of marketing. And I think you've seen it. You've seen the era of digital marketing, Facebook ads. Everyone was doing them. Now just a few people are doing them and getting the results that they want. Not even necessarily the results that they were getting many years ago. Marketing changes all the time, but those are tactics. What I'm talking about here is foundational strategies that have withstand the test of time, and that is relationships. That is connecting with people you enjoy working with. And yet, it is the thing that requires some strategy behind it, intention, focus, and most certainly time. And as fads of marketing go in and out, mostly we're looking for ways to shortcut by scaling and reducing the amount of time input for the ROI. And I get it. Those are great pursuits. But time with others, building the relationships, I know firsthand in my own business, and I know from working with so many of you, is the thing that actually moves the needle and withstands easy come and go marketing fads. So that's why I wanted to bring back this episode, because I just feel like the information that we covered, that Brandon shared, is incredibly impactful and still relevant today, and a good reminder of where we can invest our time in others to get an ROI to grow our business. So today, you're going to get to meet our guest, Brandon Fong. At the time of this interview a few years ago, Brandon was an entrepreneur, author, marketing nerd, world traveler, and goofy husband to his wife, Leah. He is the creator of the Magic Connection Method and the founder of 7-Figure Millennials, where his mission was to inspire millennial entrepreneurs to pursue big financial goals while prioritizing their happiness, health, and relationships. Now, over the last several years, he's pivoted his messaging and brand a bit, but I'll share more about that at the end of the interview so that you can connect with him and what he's up to today, should you want to. In today's episode, you are going to discover why you're just one connection away from your biggest breakthrough, the 5-step framework Brandon used to land a dream opportunity as a college senior, how to make an irresistible offer that gets busy people to say yes, what most business owners get wrong about networking and why it's costing them, simple tools to find anyone's email and craft subject lines that actually get opened. Now, before we dive in, I want to invite you Yes, I want to invite you to take my next level business owner quiz. In fact, maybe you hit pause right now. It takes 3 minutes to take this quiz. And what you're going to uncover is, where is the resistance in your business? Where are you stuck? And what do you have to overcome specifically to get your business to the next level? And you don't just find out where you might be stuck. You're going to get a personalized playlist of specific episodes that address those challenges. And what could be more productive than not going back through a library of 400 episodes, but really having a curated playlist that address where you're at right now and the challenges that you need to be focusing on to get your business to the next level. Head on over to amberdelagarza.com/quiz. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/quiz. And now let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Hey, Brandon, welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
Amber, I am doing fantastic. Super excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You submitted to be a guest on the Productivity Straight Talk, and I don't always say yes to guests I don't know, but when your topic came through and you were so thorough with the connection of productivity, I was really, really excited to say yes to you. And so before we dive into the magic of connection method, I would love our listeners to get to know a little bit about you personally and about your business journey. And then lastly, if you can tell us, why am I talking to you about the magic connection method?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to handle there. But I like to start with kind of my story because I think it relates directly into the magic connection method. So my entrepreneurial journey, if you want to call it, started at Wisconsin Hills Middle School. So the reason why I started there is because when the school bell would ring for lunch, if you can kind of imagine when you were in middle school, if you're listening to this right now, the hallways would kind of flood with all the crazy, obnoxious sixth graders, whatever the heck was going on. And if you looked really closely, you would kind of see little nerdy Brandon hanging out behind everyone. I had these big glasses and Bugs Bunny teeth. I would kind of be hanging out, trying to procrastinate going to lunch. And you may be wondering, why the heck would any sixth grader try to procrastinate on the one time that they have freedom outside of the classroom, right? So I would go through the lunch checkout line. I'd have my plastic tray with my chicken nuggets and the curly fries or whatever was on sale for the day. And I'd put down my plastic tray next to the lunch lady. I'd type in my student ID, and then up on the screen would pop the words, Brandon Fong, $0.00. And the reason why it showed that is because my family qualified for the free lunch program at school. And I used to be so embarrassed. I used to try to distract my friends some days so that they wouldn't see the computer screen. Some days I would try to hide out in the bathroom a little bit ahead of time. And the reason why I was so frustrated back then is because I wished my family had more resources. But what my parents taught me and what I learned over the years is that it wasn't about learning. It wasn't about having resources. It was about learning how to be resourceful. And one of the things that my parents taught me from an early age of how to be resourceful is the power of human connection. And so I'm so blessed for everything that my parents did for me. But one of the things that they did is they would let me skip school as a 16-year-old and go to local networking events. So I was the 16-year-old and I had this opportunity to talk to people that were way more experienced than I was and learn how to connect with them. So I kind of started developing these connection skills at a really early age. And if you fast forward to my senior year of college, I ended up using these connection skills to reach out to a really successful entrepreneur. At the time, he had over 100,000 students in his online courses, 1.5 million downloads on his podcast, a TED Talk, and all that stuff. And I just kind of felt like David versus Goliath, kind of, like, who is I, some college kid, to reach out to this guy? But I figured, you know what, I've been practicing connection for a while. Why don't I just reach out to him? So sent an email to him, and that ended up turning into an incredible relationship where for 3 years, I ended up working with him. We added over 100,000 students to his online courses, 1.5 million downloads to his podcast. And Jonathan got into, Jonathan was the name of the guy I reached out to. He got into this high-end group called Genius Network. And if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with it, Genius Network is a high-end mastermind. It costs $25,000 a year to attend. You need to be making at least 7 figures to be in the room. And Jonathan got into that group and he said, I want Brandon to come along with me. So again, I found myself at age 22 being the youngest person in the room and getting to learn from these incredibly successful people. And I was just so blessed from that. So all that said, to share this story, there's really two main takeaways that I think your audience can get from this. One is the power of what one connection can do for you. I really believe that if you're listening to this, you are just one connection away from anything that you want in your life. And today we can talk about the magic connection method and how you can specifically do that. And the other reason why I tell that story is because, and I don't know if we want to dive into this in today's episode, but I learned that people that are incredibly successful, they have all the things in the world, all the money, right? But sometimes that doesn't necessarily bring happiness. You can have all the things you want in life, but still not be happy inside. So that's the other reason why I created my podcast, 7-Figure Millennials, where I'm on a mission to inspire millennial entrepreneurs to prioritize their happiness, health, and relationships while making their biggest entrepreneurial dreams a reality. And I'm on my own journey to 7 figures, so I'm kind of sharing that along the way. So those are the two things that kind of explain my story and the connection to why I'm so passionate about connections. And then I don't know, Amber, if there's anything you want me to clarify on there, or I can dive right into why I think this is a perfect topic for productivity.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna interject a little bit. Well, great job on the power of story, because you plucking out your experience in junior high. Now, you and I have literally not met. I think we've been on this call for 4 minutes total. We went right to record, and I already feel connected to you because I had the same exact experience in junior high. I also got free lunches, and I also was incredibly embarrassed. And I also thought the worst part of my day was lunch. So I'm listening to this, like literally leaning into my computer, like, okay, where is he going with this? This is so good. And I do want to say that why I wanted you on here is because when I look back at my business, I can do hard things. Everyone, I believe, listening to this can do hard things. It doesn't mean it has to be done that way. Because when I also look back at my own growth and journey, some of the biggest leaps forward that have been the easiest have been through connection. And I love that you have this on a purpose. So when we're looking at how do we show up most effectively and most productively in our businesses, this is why I wanted to talk about the power of connection and prioritizing that. Because Brandon, do you see, before you jump into your model, I have a question that's burning. Do you see that people squeeze it out because they don't value the time that it takes to build these connections?
Can you just clarify when you say squeezing out? What do you mean by that?
So my listeners often say, oh my gosh, I don't have time for another thing, or my schedule's so full. I don't have time to go to that networking event, or I don't have time to do another luncheon. Oh my gosh, when am I going to squeeze it in? And looking at this from a lack instead of, I would assume, the long-term game of it could be the single best decision in your business.
Yeah, well, Amber, I love this question, and let me answer it by, I just want to give you a compliment and tell your listeners how awesome you are, because I've listened to the show and I love your definition of productivity, of investing your best time into your best activity. And to me, connection is a direct relationship with your definition of productivity, because if you know how to connect with people that are in their strengths that complement your best activities, that is really a multiplication factor. So to me, it's not even a how should you squeeze your time. This is really the pure definition of productivity, is if you can stick within your unique ability after you understand what that is, identify other people that complement your best activities, that is really multiplication of productivity right there. So I think that if your listeners are spending a lot of time in the day-to-day, they're focusing on putting out fires, or that other bucket, the everything else bucket that you talk about, that, you should consider, well, maybe you are not spending as much time in your best activity. You could learn by connecting with people that can help supplement and putting you inside of your best activity so you can be the most productive.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Go for it. Share with us. That is the perfect connection. And thank you so much for sharing that with our listeners, that connection. All right. So let's dive into what you call the magic connection method.
Yeah, of course. So there's 3 steps to it. It's pretty simple. And I'm very blessed to say that I had the opportunity to work with Jonathan, who had over 100,000 people on his email list. And I was the marketer on that for several years. So when I say I've sent millions of emails, it's not that hard when you have 100,000 people at a time, right? So outside of that, but I've also sent to lots of individual people. So let me just say that the whole goal of this entire message is very simple. And the goal of the first message that we're going to send in the Magic Connection Method is to get people to respond. And when I'm talking about this is mostly from the context of email, but you can use this on any platform where you're sending any form of written communication. information, this will work. So I will talk about it from the context of email, but you can also apply it in other places. So backing up, the whole goal of this entire message is to get people to respond. That's it. I find that so many people, they make this mistake of trying to do way too many things inside of the first outreach when you really don't know who they are yet, right? So like the whole goal is to not to book a call, not to send them to their website or to download something. It's simply just to get them to lean in and engage in the relationship with you. So there's 3 steps to making that happen. And Amber, if there's a way that if you want to pause me at any point, we can go through these if you want to clarify, but maybe I'll pause after each step and you can ask me any clarification questions. But step 1 is the hook. And the number one mistake that people make when they reach out to someone on any platform is I see this all the time on LinkedIn is they make it all about them, as in the person that is reaching out, they make it all about them. So they'll be like, hi, my name is Brendan Fong and I'm the founder of blah, blah, blah. And I've done blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure anybody listening to this, you can go on your LinkedIn or anywhere really, and you can see examples of people that are trying to posture themselves and make it about them when really it should be about the person that you're reaching out to. They need to know why they should even care or why they should even listen to you to begin with. So in the very beginning, we want to set a completely different standard from the noise of everybody else that's clamoring for attention, talking about how awesome they are. And we want to make it about the person that we're reaching out to. So there's really 3 main ways that I think are the most powerful that you can leverage inside of this hook or the opening sentences of this outreach that you're sending to someone. The first most powerful way that you can include in this hook is if you have a mutual connection with them, because that automatically separates you. So do some time to do some research, or as you continue to network, you're going to start to have more secondary connections. And if you can mention that in a way that complements the person that you have as a mutual connection, that's a great way to introduce that. Another way is content. So I call this the 3 C's. So connection, content, or complement. So if you've consumed their content, you could be listening to this show right now and love Amber's definition of productivity and tell her how incredible it is. I don't know about you, Amber, but like whenever I get an email like that, like I love reading that kind of stuff and I don't really ever get sick of it. So if you can reach out in the way that say, hey, Amber, thank you so much for sharing your definition of productivity. It's helped me to get X, Y, and Z results. And I really just from the bottom of my heart, really appreciate the work that you do and sharing what you do. That is like something people would love that. And that is another example. It was kind of a hybrid of content and compliment. But if you can give someone a genuine compliment about the work that they're doing, it's another great way to open an introduction to any kind of message that you're sending. And the last thing I'll say on this hook is that this is just 1 to 3 sentences. You don't want to go what I call kind of like, I make a joke and I call it like the serial killer line, right? Because it's nice if you're complimenting someone, but if you send them a paragraph where it's like a book, and I know Amber's the productivity expert here, she could tell you how creepy it is to get an email from somebody that's like, it's like they wrote you a novel. So there's a line here. We just want to do 1 to 3 sentences showing that we took the time to research them and compliment and show that we're genuinely showing up the right way. So I can kind of pause there for a second. Amber, yes. Is there anything you want to add there before I move on?
I have lots of questions and ads. So yes. Okay. So we're going to pull this back. First of all, okay. 1 is that this isn't just an email. Let's just talk about the mediums. How can this be used? So we talked about LinkedIn, making a connection on LinkedIn. I'm going to throw out podcast, asking to be a guest on a podcast, because these rules so far, I don't know what rules 2 and 3 are, but so far, this will really get you in there for a guest, to be a guest. What other ways are you looking at, like a connection if you want to work with somebody and you've targeted them to be like your top client? Give us some real use cases that you would use this framework.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. Absolutely. Getting on podcasts. I've used this magic connection method to get on plenty of podcasts, and it's an incredible way to open the doors to relationships. For client relationships, I would say, and we'll go into the other steps, and you'll understand a little bit more if you're listening to this, how to apply it specifically. But like, if you want to acquire clients and you have a truly irresistible offer that you can create, you can send these magic connection method. It's like turning on a faucet of leads. It's like most people are chasing down clients, but what if you found a way to send these magic connection methods the magic connection method emails where they chase you down instead. So that's really what this is. It could be for acquiring clients. It could be for reaching out to strategic partnerships and doing joint ventures for people. It could be reaching out to, if you are a podcast host, getting guests on the podcast. If you want to acquire mentors or ask questions to people to help you take your business to the next level, it can be used in that context as well. So really, it's kind of up to this is the tool, and however you want to use the tool, as long as it's starting a relationship, this can open the door to make that happen.
Okay, this is excellent because I'm going to share some experiences that I've had that are completely opposite that turn me off. One,
Awesome.
it
Cool.
annoys the heck out of me on LinkedIn when they want to connect with you, they instantly connect with you, and then they just shoot off a blanketed email of like putting down your throat, come to this free class, do this free, like directly into like, marry me. And I'm thinking, you're the one that asked to connect with me. Like, what is going on? And for me, because time is so sensitive, I immediately get rubbed the wrong way. And I almost always, I disconnect with them and I tell them, don't send me anything else again. And it just feels so gross when they just throw it out there within seconds of me accepting the connection. 2. I actually opened it up in this interview with you saying, I don't always say yes to podcast pitches, not often at all, in fact. And you used this on me and you did it in an authentic way because I could tell that you did your homework. In fact, your application came through right before I got on a meeting with my content manager. So we read your application together because we happened to be talking about next guests. It was like also the best timing. And I remember Crystal telling me, oh my gosh, he did his homework. I think he'd be an amazing guest. And so it was really authentic that you had done your homework. You knew who I was. You knew who I would serve. And then you told me why you were the person that could help my audience. And as a podcast host, that is all I care about. And I get pitch after pitch about how amazing the person is. And I'm like, I don't care. And so I just want to validate everything you're saying as the person that holds the platform. I immediately say, I really don't care. I feel like it's my job to protect the platform and to serve my audience. And if someone that pitches me cannot tell me how they're going to help serve my audience, it's an immediate no. So
yeah, well, thank you so much for that, Amber. I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. So just to validate that what you're sharing is truly that experience and gets results. So great. We'll go to step 2 now. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. So now we're at this point where we made it about them, right? And so it's 1 to 3 sentences, either mentioning a mutual connection, content or compliment, or some combination of the 3 of them. And then I'll usually toss in kind of like a sentence in between where it's like, besides wanting to share that with you, I do have a quick question. Now, this is where we move into part 2 of the Magic Connection Method email or message. And it's called the Irresistible Offer. And so I want to explain before I go into this is that there's a big difference between an offer and an irresistible offer. There's this quote by Dean Jackson I like to quote all the time that a compelling offer is 10 times more powerful than a convincing argument. So exactly what Amber was saying is like, how can you think from the perspective of the person that you're reaching out to? What is valuable to them? How can you put yourself in their